The sound of gunfire echoed across Pinehurst shooting range as Sarah Wilson stood at the entrance holding her sign-up form. Her small body and quiet presence looked very different from the manly atmosphere of the fancy club. As she walked toward the front desk, the talking around her got quiet, with small whispers and hidden laughs. A tall man with gray-streaked hair looked up from his talk, his eyes getting narrow as he saw Sarah. "Can I help you?" he asked in a voice that made it seem like she was in the wrong place. His name tag read Robert Jenkins, President. "Yes, I'm here for the shooting test," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite feeling uncomfortable. "I signed up online last week." She pushed her paper across the shiny wooden counter. Robert picked up the paper with 2 fingers like it might be dirty. His eyebrows went up as he read it. "Miss Wilson, I see you've signed up for the advanced group." His mouth made what could barely be called a smile, but his eyes stayed cold. "That's our top-level contest. Maybe there's been a mistake. We have a beginner's class that might be better for someone like you." The way he said "someone like you" hung in the air, full of meaning. Around them, several men in expensive shooting gear shared knowing looks and poorly hidden smirks. "There's no mistake. I've met all the requirements listed on your website." Her voice was soft but firm. Robert's smile got tight as he looked at his friends who had formed a half-circle around them. Among them was his son Michael, a younger copy of himself with the same proud stance. "Look, ma'am," Robert said, leaning forward like sharing friendly advice, "this isn't like shooting cans in a backyard. Our advanced group includes former military experts, Olympic-level shooters. I'm sure you understand we need to keep certain standards." He pushed the sign-up form back across the counter. "Why don't you step aside and let the serious shooters through? We're very busy today with the regional tests." Sarah didn't move or flinch at being dismissed. Instead, her eyes moved past Robert to the electronic scoreboard showing the morning's results. "Your website says that anyone who meets the entry rules can compete," she said simply. "I've paid the fee, passed my background check, and met all requirements. I'd like to continue with my scheduled test." As the tension grew, an older man sitting in the corner of the room looked up from his coffee. Unlike the others, his weathered face showed no amusement. His attention caught on something shiny at Sarah's collar, a military dog tag that had slipped from under her buttoned shirt. His eyes widened slightly in recognition, though he stayed quiet. "Fine," Robert finally agreed with a dismissive wave. "Lane 15 is open. Don't expect any special treatment when you can't hit the side of a barn." Laughter spread through the group of men as Sarah gathered her papers and walked toward the equipment area. 10 years earlier, under the hot summer sun of a military training facility, a younger Sarah Wilson lay flat on burning desert ground. Through the scope of her rifle, she tracked a target nearly 900 yards away. "Breathe, adjust, squeeze," came the quiet instruction from Captain James Miller, her shooting teacher. The crack of her shot split the air, followed by the metal ping of a perfect hit, dead center. "That's her 5th bullseye in a row at extreme range," James noted to his colleague. "I've never seen natural talent like this, especially not from someone who couldn't even hold the rifle properly 6 weeks ago." Her journey to this moment had been anything but easy. As one of only 3 women in the Special Tactical Program, she had faced quiet doubt and the constant need to prove herself while her male teammates got immediate respect. The military had never been Sarah's planned career. With a degree in mechanical engineering, she had first joined to develop targeting devices. But a skills test showed her extraordinary potential as a shooter, redirecting her to the elite sniper program. What her body lacked in raw strength, her mind made up for with calculation, patience, and an almost supernatural ability to account for every detail from wind speed to barrel temperature. Wilson, Captain Miller had said after her 3rd week of training, when she'd outshot instructors with decades of experience, "You have a gift. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." By the end of her training, Sarah had broken 3 long-standing records and developed changes to standard rifles that were later adopted by her entire unit. Now, a decade later, James Miller sat in the corner of the Pinehurst Shooting Club, watching his former star student being dismissed by men who couldn't dream of matching her skill. In the equipment room, Sarah carefully checked the club-provided rifle, her fingers moving with practiced skill over each part. As she worked, Robert Jenkins appeared at the doorway, leaning against the frame with casual arrogance. "Hey kid," he called out. "If you want to stay and watch how real shooters perform, I could find something for you to do around here. Filing maybe, coffee runs. Women still need to know their place, don't they?" Sarah didn't respond immediately. She simply turned back to the rifle, completed her final adjustments, and then faced him. "Thank you for the offer, Mr. Jenkins. But I believe I'll just take my scheduled turn at the range instead." The look of mild surprise that crossed his face was small but satisfying. Instead of being intimidated, she picked up the rifle with practiced ease and walked past him toward lane 15. The qualifying round at Pinehurst was structured as a 3-tier challenge. Most newcomers failed at the second tier. Even experienced marksmen often struggled with the third. Sarah stood at her assigned lane, aware of the eyes watching her with expectation of failure. Robert Jenkins stood prominently among the spectators, his arms crossed over his chest. Beside him was Michael, copying his father's posture. "This should be entertaining," Michael muttered loudly. $10 says she doesn't even hit the paper on the first shot." Several men chuckled, placing informal bets on how quickly Sarah would fail. The first-tier target was positioned at 100 yards. Sarah took her stance, settling the rifle against her shoulder with practiced familiarity. When Sarah pulled the trigger, there was no dramatic recoil, no visible struggle, just a clean, controlled shot. When the target was brought forward for inspection, the bullet hole was precisely through the center. A perfect shot that stunned the onlookers. A murmur of surprise rippled through the group. Beginner's luck, Robert dismissed, though his confident smile had weakened. But the second tier, 3 shots at 200 yards with a crosswind simulation, yielded the same result. 3 perfect shots grouped so closely they formed a single ragged hole. By the time Sarah completed the third tier, a series of moving targets at varying distances, even the most doubtful observers had fallen silent. "Who the hell is she?" one of the club members whispered. "Nobody shoots like that without years of training." Professional training. Robert's face had darkened, his pride visibly wounded. As Sarah set down the rifle, Robert approached her with forced politeness. "Well, Miss Wilson, that was surprisingly competent. You've qualified for the advanced division, though the competition itself is another level entirely. The preliminary round is next Saturday. Perhaps you'll want to reconsider your participation." "I'll be here," Sarah replied simply. As she turned to leave, she found her path blocked by Michael Jenkins and 2 other club members, their expressions now wary and hostile. "We checked backgrounds thoroughly for the advanced division," Michael said. "Strange that someone with your apparent skill level doesn't show up in any of the usual competitive circuits. Makes one wonder where exactly you learned to shoot like that." Before Sarah could respond, a gravelly voice cut through the tension. "I know exactly who she is." James Miller had risen from his seat and was approaching the group. All heads turned toward the older man, a respected figure at the club. His gaze didn't leave the eagle insignia visible on Sarah's dog tags. "And I'm willing to stake my 40 years of reputation on her right to compete here." The week before the preliminary round hummed with tension. Behind closed doors, Robert Jenkins orchestrated a careful investigation into Sarah's background, frustrated by the classified nature of her military records. Meanwhile, Sarah and James reconnected at a quiet diner miles from the club. "It was impulsive," she admitted when he asked why she'd entered the competition. "Seeing my own design elements in their advertisement for the new tracking system just triggered something. After 10 years building a life where my gender doesn't make people question my competence, seeing my innovations showcased in a place that would dismiss me outright, I couldn't ignore it." "Jenkins won't make this easy," James warned. Having a woman show him up would be intolerable to his ego. Saturday arrived with the preliminary round. As Sarah checked in, the intercom crackled. "Sarah Wilson, please report to the judges' table immediately. There appears to be an issue with your registration." Robert and 2 officials waited with barely concealed satisfaction. He presented a folder containing redacted military records that questioned her disclosed experience level. "Competitors must disclose all relevant experience," another judge explained. These documents suggest specialized training that should have been declared. Sarah examined the documents with outward calm. I followed the guidelines exactly. The form asked for competition experience and formal training courses. I have none in civilian competition, and my military classifications remain under security restrictions I'm legally bound to respect. James appeared at her side, his presence lending silent support. As a founding member familiar with our bylaws, I can confirm that classified military service doesn't fall under the disclosure requirements as written. Unwilling to concede, Robert pressed another accusation. There's also the matter of equipment modifications. Our inspection team noted unauthorized alterations to the club rifle during your qualification. That's simply untrue, Sarah countered. I made standard adjustments, nothing that violates regulations. James intervened again. I observed the entire qualification. The modifications were within permitted parameters. After a tense silence, another judge suggested moving forward with the competition. As Sarah turned to leave, Robert made one final attempt to regain control. If you're as good as you claim, you should have no objection to a special exhibition match on our new testing range with the digital monitoring system I just invested in, the most advanced precision tracking equipment available. I accept, Sarah said simply. What Robert couldn't know was that Sarah hadn't just used advanced targeting systems. She had literally written the manual on the technology forming the backbone of his prized new equipment. The exhibition match was scheduled immediately after the preliminary round. As the regular competition concluded, Robert announced the special event. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat today. Pinterest has recently invested in state-of-the-art targeting technology. Today's exhibition will demonstrate this equipment's capabilities and settle questions about our newest competitor's qualification. Ms. Wilson will demonstrate her skills against mine on the new range. 5 shots at 800 yards with variable wind conditions. The system will analyze every aspect of performance. You'll shoot first, Robert directed Sarah at the new facility, a climate-controlled indoor range with sophisticated wind simulation technology and massive digital displays. Examining the provided rifle, Sarah noticed subtle adjustments designed to disrupt a shooter's rhythm. As she settled into position, she also spotted a discrepancy in the wind speed indicators. The displayed wind conditions didn't match the actual air currents. Anyone trusting the readouts would miss by inches. Rather than exposing the manipulation, Sarah mentally adjusted her calculations. Her first shot produced a perfect hit despite the challenging conditions. By her 5th shot, which grouped tightly with previous shots, amazed exclamations filled the room. Impressive, Robert acknowledged stiffly before taking his position. As he prepared, Sarah noticed a technician discreetly adjusting the control panel, resetting the system to display accurate wind readings for Robert's turn. Despite shooting well, Robert couldn't match her performance. When the system displayed overall results, the difference was undeniable. Before he could diminish her achievement, Sarah stepped forward. I believe there may be calibration issues with the system. The wind indicators displayed values that didn't match actual conditions during my round. Fortunately, I've had experience with similar systems and compensated accordingly. Technical glitches happen with new equipment, Robert dismissed. I think we should have one final opportunity, Sarah suggested, with properly verified equipment and no interference. And I'll take the last shot. Fine, Robert agreed tersely. 1 shot each, maximum distance, verified settings. Captain Miller will verify the equipment. The range was reset for the final challenge, a single shot at 1,000 yards. James personally verified every aspect of the system's calibration. Robert's shot was excellent, landing within 2 inches of dead center. It was a shot few could equal, let alone surpass. He turned to Sarah with barely concealed triumph. Your turn, Ms. Wilson. That's going to be difficult to beat. Sarah approached with quiet focus. Her movements were fluid, unhurried, each adjustment precise. When Sarah squeezed the trigger, for a moment, the system appeared to glitch. Then the results appeared, and an audible gasp swept through the room. Her bullet had struck the absolute dead center of the target. But it wasn't just the accuracy that stunned onlookers. The monitor displayed analytics about impact force and velocity exceeding the parameters the system was designed to measure. A warning flashed, measurement limits exceeded. Robert stared at the monitor in disbelief. This wasn't just a better shot than his. It demonstrated skill on an entirely different level. A technician approached with confused respect. "Sir, the system is showing unusual readings." According to the database, the shooting pattern and precision metrics match the system's original calibration protocols, the ones provided by the manufacturer's lead designer. "What does that mean? How is that possible?" Robert turned to Sarah. James stepped forward, his face breaking into a broad smile. "It means, Robert, that you've been privileged to witness something remarkable today. The original calibration protocols for this system were developed by Captain Sarah Wilson during her service with the Advanced Tactical Systems Division. The patents are classified, but the technology you're so proud of installing, she helped design it." All eyes shifted to Sarah. "The core tracking algorithms are based on work I did, yes," she acknowledged quietly. "You designed this system?" Michael asked incredulously. "Then why are you working as an accountant? Why aren't you competing professionally?" "When I left the service, I wanted a different life, one where I wasn't defined solely by my shooting abilities. The accounting world values precision too, just in a different context. But some skills never leave you, even when you set them aside for a while." 6 months later, Pinehurst Shooting Club had transformed. The membership had expanded by nearly 30%, with a notable increase in women and younger shooters. Today marked the opening of Pinehurst's new training center designed for women and youth shooters. Sarah stood at the podium, her military dog tags now visible without concealment. "Before we officially open this new facility," Sarah began, "I want to acknowledge that this moment represents far more than a physical expansion of Pinehurst. It represents an expansion of possibility, a recognition that excellence in marksmanship isn't defined by gender, background, or tradition, but by dedication, precision, and respect for the discipline." As the celebrations continued, James found Sarah observing from a distance. "When you walked into Pinehurst that first day, did you imagine it would lead to all this?" he asked. Sarah smiled. "Honestly, I was just tired of hiding what I could do. I never planned to change Pinehurst. I just wanted to claim my own place in it on my own terms. And instead, you've created space for countless others to do the same," James observed. As the sun began to set, Sarah watched a young girl take her first coached shot under the guidance of a female instructor, a scene that would have been impossible in the old Pinehurst. In that moment, Sarah realized that her greatest achievement wasn't the technical innovations or institutional changes. It was the simple, powerful example she had set, that true value doesn't come from conforming to expectations, but from the courage to bring your full self forward.